We are talking about Iran. President Trump issuing an ultimatum to that country, specifically Tehran, saying they need to make a deal for their nuclear program and getting rid of it, or bad things will happen. That's a quote there. And right now we know the commander-in-chief is getting together the most U.S. air power in the Middle East since the Iraq War. Now, all of this is amid signs that the Islamic Republic is gearing up to defend itself. So we have Professor Richard Sindelar with the Baker Institute at Rice University joining us to talk about these Iran tensions. And the first question I have for you is, how serious are these military operations?
Well, the question in my mind is whether the principal goal here of President Trump and Secretary Hegseth is to do what's called Saber rattling. In other words, show what we could do, but hopefully we won't have to do it in support of the negotiations, or whether if things really don't go the way that they wish them in the negotiations, does that mean instead that we really use the military power we have?
So when President Trump talks about the 2-week timeline for them to actually go ahead and reach an agreement, how important is that, and what does that actually mean?
I'm not sure anymore, a year more into this administration, whether timelines mean much, because they keep getting moved, changed, shortened, lengthened, whatever. There's a bit of a disconnect because President Trump's last remark was he wanted them to get back to him within 10 days. The Iranians in the meetings yesterday asked for 2 weeks, and they seem very upbeat about being able to come to some sort of package that might be relatively satisfactory to the U.S. There was a comment also today from Rafael Grossi, who's the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, who was involved in some of the meetings in Geneva, and he said that don't pay too much attention to the media noise. There's actually more positive exchanges and professional exchanges going on in those meetings. So I try to be optimistic, but you can't tell with this administration.
So I know that Iran has said they don't want war, but they would strike back against the U.S. I know there's a lot of back and forth with the U.S. and Iran. So how dangerous is all of that?
As long as the negotiations are felt to be positive by both sides, I'm hopeful. At the same time, if things go south and we start attacking them, it would depend upon how that might go. In the bombing of their nuclear sites, the Iranians were very reserved and did that one airstrike on our Al Udeid air base in Qatar, which was signaled ahead of time that it was coming, so it did not do too much damage. This time, depending on what we attack and what we do, we could have mines in the Straits of Hormuz, we could have missiles on Saudi oil fields, we could have missiles on Israel. And I am very intrigued by the fact that the Iranians shot a drone at the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln a few days ago. Most people haven't paid attention to that. I am sure that was an intelligence gathering mission where they were reading the electronic responses of the carrier in preparation for trying to figure out how to hit that carrier if we get into a shooting match with them.
And speaking of which, if we do get into a shooting match and there is some sort of war between the U.S. and Iran, what would that mean for everyday Americans, especially gas prices and global stability?
It would depend upon if we attack, first of all, their oil facilities as part of our attack. If we do that, they'll attack the Saudis. No matter how we attack, one of the cards they can play is to mine or use missiles in the Straits of Hormuz. Because of insurance needed for oil shipping, that will go dead. 20% of the oil flow in the world will be staunched, and that means prices are going to go through the roof. Now, depending upon the length of the fight, that might not last very long, but if it turns into a general warfare with Israel being attacked, our ships being attacked, and quite frankly, I think we need to look here about us, terrorism at home. The Iranians have a heavy-duty intelligence operation, clandestine operation in this country, and if they started to plant bombs, that could be another thing that could be done. So once that happens, all the bets are off.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think is going to happen next in terms of what's going to be coming out from the White House? I know there's, the 10-day period, but do you think that the negotiations will just continue or wrap up sooner rather than later?
I think one thing that's the Iranians say they want to bring this package to the table. What that package is probably not going to include is some of the red lines the Trump administration has, which stop missile production, and absolutely no uranium enrichment. And Iran is not going to give in on those 2 points. They are willing to enrich uranium at a very low level needed for energy and medical uses, and they must have the missiles for defense against other countries as well. So they're not going to give up on that. So if we can compromise on our side a little bit, good news. If we can't compromise a little bit on our side, we're probably going to go down a slippery slope toward more tension at least, and probably some violence.
All right. Well, thank you, Professor Sindelar, for your expertise there and insight.
Thank you for having me always, Rashi.
You bet.